Welcome everyone to CG's webinar, and today we have with us Sangwoo Lee, and his topic is job quality premium, trend changes in job quality in South Korea. So we're really looking forward to hearing from Sangwoo. Before I introduce him, we'll take you through the webinar protocols, and I'll start sharing my screen at this point, Chris. Once I can do that. Yeah. Here we are. Can you see that?
Yes.
Now, please remember that the webinar is being recorded, and your comments in the chat on the Q&A and so on all are part of that recording process. The chat we often include on our website after the event. We always include the recording of the webinar, and by linking in through our website, you go to the YouTube channel, which CG has with our archive of 300 webinars. And you can, of course, go directly to that and see today's webinar and all the previous ones. And during the webinar, we advise you to keep muted because extraneous noise can interfere with the webinar. You don't need to have your camera on during the webinar. We, of course, want you to turn on both your mic and your camera when you enter the Q&A part, which usually starts about halfway through. We advise you to use speaker view in the top right-hand corner there. You can then see exactly who's speaking at a given time in the Q&A. Now, to enter the discussion, and we really encourage you to do this, use the chat function. Post your intended comment or question for Sangwoo in the chat, and then I'll be able to select you into the webinar from there. We have that double stage process simply because sometimes we get people coming into the webinar who want to sell products or whatever, and we have to make sure that the questions are going to be about the webinar topic. I will send you a little note in the chat, so a private note saying I'm going to call you in. And I'll usually take the speakers in the order in which they come forward. Sometimes we arrange that slightly because of content. And when you're invited to on camera to come in yourself onto camera and in the webinar, turn on your mic, turn on your camera if you can, and then tell us who you are and where you're from, and then state your question or your statement in relation to the webinar topic. So round about half past 2 UK time, I'll start sending everyone notes in the chat saying it's time to think about your questions. So come in early, because if you come in late, you might miss out. The speaking list could be full by then. So I'll stop sharing at this point. Now, Sangwoo. Sangwoo is a researcher at the Institute for Employment Research at the University of Warwick. He was formerly at University College in London, and his research focuses primarily on inequalities in higher education and the labour market. Those issues, of course, of great interest to many people who tune into our webinar, Sangwoo. And at this point, I'm happy to hand over the screen to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Simon. So I'm going to share my screen first. Give me a second, please. All right. First of all, thanks for having me today. My name is Sangwoo Lee. I'm a researcher at the University of Warwick Institute for Employment Research. My key research interests include the inequalities in higher education and the labor market. And within this broad theme, I'm particularly interested in the inequalities in access to and success in higher education, and the importance of job quality as graduates' labor market outcomes. And today, I'm going to present one of my recent research papers focusing on job quality premium and the trend change in job quality in South Korea. Let's begin. So here are some contents that my presentation will have today. So first, as the job quality is a relatively new concept, I'm going to introduce the growing importance of job quality in society in both research and policy sectors. And then I'm going to tell you about the definition of job quality. So by this subsection, you will be able to understand what job quality means and why it is important in society. With this base knowledge in job quality, we are going to move on to the second part of the presentation, which is about my paper, Job Quality in South Korea. This paper also includes two different sections. First, the trend of job quality in South Korea and the job quality premium for graduates, along with the job quality gender gap in South Korea. And then in the third section, I'm going to tell you a bit more about the importance of job quality as graduates' labor market outcomes. So my base argument here in this subsection is that it is now time to broaden the definition of graduates' labor market outcomes with the concept of job quality. So here's the first subsection. So we've seen the growing importance of job quality everywhere in society in both research and policy sectors. And indeed, there is increased policy discourse surrounding the objective of more and better jobs during the last 2 decades. And indeed, many governments, especially in the developed countries, have implemented many relevant policies such as minimum wages or maximum working hours per week. And along with this trend in policy sectors, the volume of studies on job quality has substantially grown since 2000. And those studies have found the strong correlation between job quality and individuals' general well-being. And in 2015, decent work, another word for job quality, became an element of the agenda for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So now, decent work is number 8 Sustainable Development Goal set by the United Nations. So as we can see from this slide, we've seen the growing importance of job quality in society everywhere in each and every sector. And I drew this line graph, which shows the number of publications on job quality since 1990s. The number of publications that has the phrase of job quality in their titles. And before 2000 here, the number of publication was very small, only a single digit. However, since 2000, and especially since 2010, this specific number has substantially increased to more than 100 by 2020. In other words, many more studies now focus on job quality and the relevant topics nowadays. And here is such an example showing the importance of job quality. And this research is conducted by me and my research team, and we have found that job quality explains more variation of individuals' well-being than any other life-related indicators, such as marital status, whether having a university degree, whether having a child, age, and so on. So for instance, in Europe, job quality explains approximately 14% of variations of your well-being, which is as high as the explanatory power of your physical health. In other words, job quality is as important as your physical health in explaining your well-being. And this trend of the relative importance of job quality for your well-being can be found in different contexts, for instance, in South Korea and the United States. So job quality is very important for your well-being. So far, I've introduced the growing importance of job quality in society and the relative importance of job quality for your well-being. Then you may have wondered the definition of job quality at the moment. So here's the answer, the definition of job quality. First, job quality is a multi-dimensional concept encompassing 7 different domains. And those domains include earnings, prospect, skills and discretion, working time quality, social environment, physical environment, and work intensity. And second, job quality is an objective measure. So it's not like what's your job quality score out of 100? This minus 60, you're 70. This is not like this. So job quality is constructed, the index is constructed based on several different variables, objective measures. So for instance, for the working time quality index, this specific index was constructed based on your working hours, your scheduling control at work, and your short-term flexibility at work. So those objective measures were used to construct this specific working time quality index. So again, the job quality is a multidimensional concept, and this is an objective measure. And this specific job quality index can be found in various working condition survey data set. For instance, in the European Working Condition Survey, Korean Working Condition Survey, and American Working Condition Survey data set. And some other organizations such as OECD has introduced the other job quality indices too, such as Job Quality by OECD or Good Work Index by CIPD. Those job quality indices have also the multi-dimensional concept, and those dimensions are very similar with the 7 different domains I introduced in the previous slide. So by this subsection, the first subsection, we now understand the definition of job quality and the growing importance of job quality in society. So let's move on to our second subsection about my paper. My paper is about job quality in South Korea, and it explores the trend of job quality in South Korea and the job quality premium for university graduates and gender job quality gap. And this paper is co-authored with Professor Frances Green at UCL Institute of Education. So among many research questions that can be addressed with the concept of job quality, we chose those 2 research questions. First, has South Korea become a better place for workers? So by exploring 7 different domains of job quality, we may be able to gain a deeper understanding of the labor market and the trend change in the labor market in South Korea beyond the wages or incomes only. And second, has the job quality premium for higher education diminished? This question is important because with this growing importance of job quality in society, we've seen the soaring number of tertiary educated population globally, especially in South Korea. So those 2 questions are the research questions, specific research questions for this paper. So obviously, the main context for this specific research paper is South Korea. And South Korea is a very, very interesting context in terms of the labor market research, particularly with the concept of job quality. This is because South Korea shows both positive and negative aspects at the same time. For instance, South Korea shows very high real GDP per capita growth path during the last 2 decades. And it shows around 63% increase during the 2 decades. And as you may have already known, South Korea shows very highly educated workforce. For instance, around 69% of population, younger population, aged between 25 and 34, has a university degree. So 7 out of 10 younger population have university degree in South Korea, which is much higher than the UK or the US. Despite those positive aspects in the labor market, South Korea also stands out in a negative manner. For instance, South Korea has shown the highest gender pay gap among OECD countries for more than a decade. And according to the latest OECD dataset, males in South Korea than females earn 31% more. And South Korea also shows the longest working hours among richer nations. For instance, South Korean workers on average work for about 1,915 hours per year, which is much higher than workers in the UK and Japan. So as we can see from this slide, South Korea is a very interesting context as it shows both positive and negative aspects in the labor market. So for this specific research paper, we use the Korean Working Conditions Survey, the KWCS data, which includes 7 different domains of job quality, which I introduced in the previous slide. The KWCA benchmarked the EWCS, the European Working Conditions Survey, so they have very similar questions in the survey data set. So it is the comprehensive data on job quality, which are available from 2006. So as of 2020, the KWCS has 6 different waves since 2006. So in 2006, 10, 11, 14, 17, and 20. It is a repeated cross-sectional data set, and its target population is individuals over 15 years old in employment. And the number of samples was around 10,000 for the first 2 waves in 2006 and 2010. However, this number has increased to more than 50,000 since the 3rd wave, since 2011. So this specific survey data, the KWCS, enabled us to conduct the robust research given the substantial number of samples in the survey data set. So here's the first empirical strategy we use to explore the trend of job quality. We basically use the simple linear regression equation shown here, where JQ indicates each job quality domain separately. So we use 7 different linear regression equations to explore the trend of job quality by each domain. And year obviously represents the survey year. So the main variable of interest here is the beta coefficient, which shows the trend of job quality, each job quality domain. So if the beta coefficient is positive, that specific job quality domain has improved over time. Whereas if the coefficient is negative, that specific domain has worsened over time. That's the basic logistic here. So here is the table showing the result, showing the trend of job quality in South Korea. Here, the 7 different domains, job quality domains, are shown in the table. And each job quality domain was normalized to 0 to 100, except the log of earnings. So basically, the higher the score, the better job quality you have in that specific domain. The only exception is work intensity. Work intensity is a negative indicator. So if you have higher scores on work intensity, your work is more intense, which is a bad thing. And each row in this table represents the mean value by year from 2006 to 2020. And some observations for prospects and social environment were omitted because they had different response categories. So we omitted those observations from the analysis to conduct more robust analysis. And the beta coefficient is shown in the last row in the table. And as you can see from this table, 3 coefficients, trend coefficient, show the positive value. Those are earnings, intensity, and working time quality. However, as I mentioned briefly, work intensity is a negative indicator. So by this measure, we found only 2 out of 7 job quality domains, which are earnings and working time quality, have improved over time. And here's the simpler version of the result. So as I mentioned, only 2 have improved earnings and working time quality. And the remaining 5 domains, including prospects, skills and discretion, social environment, physical environment, and work intensity have worsened during the same period from 2006 to 2020. Then what are the implications from the first result we found? First, although South Korea has experienced economic growth during the last 2 decades, job quality has not necessarily improved over time. This is important because many researchers often argue that economic growth and job quality go hand in hand. So if economic growth happened, job quality would improve. That's many researchers' argument or suggestion. However, it turns out that South Korea is not the case at all. And second, job quality shows a quite different picture of the labor market than wages only or earnings only. As we saw in the previous slide, wages, earnings, and working time quality have improved over time. However, the remaining 5 domains have worsened. And these results can be relevant to our second research question, the job quality premium for university graduates. And this is why we need to investigate graduates' job quality as their labor market outcomes. So let's move on to our second research question. Has the job quality premium for higher education diminished? As I briefly stated, this question is very, very timely given the soaring number of tertiary educated population globally. So here I drew 4 different line graph based on the OECD dataset showing the proportion of tertiary educated population for individuals aged between 25 and 34 for 4 different countries, the UK, Italy, USA, and Korea. And in 1997, the UK and the US have about 25 or 30% of tertiary educated population. And those numbers have increased to about 50 to 60% by 2022. And South Korea is an exceptional case in this case. South Korea starts at around 30% in 1997, and the number has increased to about 70% in 2022. So again, we've seen the soaring number of tertiary educated population globally, and it is important to look at the job quality premium for university graduates with the growing importance of job quality. And here's the second empirical strategy we use to explore the gender job quality gap and job quality premium for university graduates. Again, the JQ indicates each job quality domain. So again, we use 7 different linear regression equations to explore those facts. And year represents the survey year, and education indicates a binary variable, whether having a university degree. And male indicates gender. And we also included age and age squared in this linear regression equation. So the prime variable of interest are beta 3 and beta 5 here, which show the trend of job quality premium for university graduates and the gender job quality gap in South Korea. So here's the first results for the graduate job quality premium. In South Korea, graduates, the non-graduates have better job quality in 6 out of 7 domains. The only exception was work intensity. In other words, non-graduates than graduates have lower work intensity, which is a good thing for non-graduates. However, we have also found that interestingly, 4 out of job quality domains, job quality premiums that university graduates enjoy showed a downward trend. So earnings, physical environment, and prospects and social environment, those job quality premiums showed a downward trend. And this may be relevant to the over-education theory. As we saw in the previous slide, in South Korea, about 70% of younger population aged between 25 and 34 have a university degree. In other words, more and more graduates are now in the labor market. And so the job quality premium, including the earnings premium, showed a downward trend overall. And here's the gender job quality gap in South Korea. Although South Korea shows gender discrimination in the labor market, evidenced by the largest gender pay gap among OECD countries, males do not consistently show better job quality than females. For instance, males than females have better skills and discretion, better prospects, and higher earnings. In other words, females than males have better physical environment, better social environment, better working time quality, and lower work intensity. And unfortunately, we also found that in four different domains, the gender gap has widened over time. Those are physical environment, social environment, skills and discretion, and prospects. This is not a good sign for social progress. So here's the summary of our results. First, despite the rapid economic growth that Korea experienced in the past few decades, only 2 out of 7 job quality domains improved, along with the macroeconomic prosperity. Those are earnings and working time quality. And the remaining 5 domains have worsened over time. And second, in terms of job quality premium for university graduates, graduates in South Korea than non-graduates have job quality premium, have better job quality in 6 out of 7 job quality domains. The only exception was work intensity. It implies that colleges or universities provide wider benefits for graduates in the labor market beyond the well-documented wage premium. However, such job quality premium shows a downward trend. And this may be relevant to the many numbers of university graduates in South Korea. And finally, despite the well-documented large gender pay gap in South Korea, males do not consistently show higher job quality or better job quality than females. And gender gap has been widening, though the gender earnings gap has been falling. So those are the main findings from our research papers. So let's move on to our final subsection, the third subsection, the importance of job quality as graduates' labor market outcomes. So throughout this subsection, my base argument is that it is now time to broaden the definition of graduates' labor market outcomes with the concept of job quality premium. You can find my blog post at the University of Warwick IER webpage, and you can Google it for job quality as graduates' labor market outcomes. So you can check my detailed argument here. So as we may have known, many researchers, we've been tracking graduates' labor market outcome for a long time. And many researchers often and still use the traditional measurements, including wages or employment status. Those measurements are good, but my argument is that those measurements are not enough to gain a deeper understanding of graduates' labor market outcomes. This is in part because more and more people nowadays consider trade-offs between tangible and intangible benefit when choosing a career. So for instance, according to a Business Insider in 2021, flexibility and autonomy or intangible benefits over the working day are now more important than the conventional financial reward, including wages for most workers. And further, about 56% of employees are willing to accept a lower paid job in exchange for a better work-life balance. So nowadays, people are considering trade-off between tangible and intangible benefits when choosing a career. So we need to take into account the various domains of job quality to gain a deeper understanding of the graduate's labor market outcomes. So here I briefly estimated the job quality premium using the European Working Conditions Survey in 2015. So this is a preliminary research results. However, it shows an important policy implication. So here, again, 7 different domains are shown, and each domain was normalized to 0 to 100, including earnings at this time. And the yellow bar represents the mean value for non-graduates, and green bar represent the mean value for graduates. And as you can see from this slide, graduates in Europe than non-graduates have better job quality in 5 out of 7 job quality domains. Those are earnings, prospects, skills and discretion, physical environment, and social environment. The interesting 2 exceptions were work intensity and working time quality. In other words, non-graduates than graduates have lower work intensity and better working time quality. This is an interesting finding and important, because so far we've concluded that graduates than non-graduates have better quality jobs based solely on this earnings information. It is true that graduates than non-graduates have higher earnings, and this is true for the European Working Conditions Survey data too. However, given the growing importance of job quality and given the fact that many people value intangible benefits such as working time quality more than the financial rewards, and given that the non-graduates have lower work intensity and better working time quality, we need to throw out questions like this. So are we sure graduates have better quality jobs than non-graduates? So by using this concept of job quality premium, we will have to explore the graduate labor market outcomes more deeply. However, we have some challenges at the moment we are facing. First, governments lack national level surveys, including a full range of job quality variables. Hence, it is hard for them to detect and address any existing inequalities in the quality of employment. And second, even in countries with national level surveys with job quality variables, it is still hard to combine job quality information with either socio-biographical or socioeconomic information. Then what should we do? First, it will be important for social science to keep pace with the changes of job quality and to embed inquiry into job quality within general social science. Further, more importantly, it is now time for designers of general social surveys, panels, core studies, and labor force surveys to allocate more resources, such as survey space, to measuring job quality for adult responses or graduates in work. And third, again, job quality information should be linked to more detailed information on socio-biographical and socioeconomic characteristics so that we can explore who is having what kind of job quality in the labor market. That was the end of my presentation today, and I'm more than happy to answer any following questions from the audience. Thank you.
Well, Sangway, well done. That was very clear and really beautifully presented. And I think it's given us lots of hooks to, to anchor a discussion around. I already Golo and Seki and Georgiana and Mihout have come into the chat and have got questions, and I'll bring them in that order. Let me ask you a couple of things first, just a clarification, really. First, I'm not quite clear on what's included under social environment. I mean, it's interesting to see how important physical and social environment are in
Mhm.
many countries, and not just in South Korea. I think we can work out what physical environment's likely to be, but social environment, I'm not quite sure about.
Okay.
Question was really just to really get you to recap on the gender stuff. I mean, it's so striking in South Korea. I think as I read it, I think you were saying job quality gap between men and women is growing,
Yes.
but the earnings gap, which is high, is possibly declining. Is that right? Anyway, but you can maybe just repeat that for us. But do tell us about social environment.
Okay. So first of all, the social environment include here social support and absence of abuse. So it includes about the relationship between colleagues and your relationship between supervisor and yourself. So it includes that kind of relationship at work. And it also includes the section of the abuse, physical or emotional abuse at work. So if you have experienced some kind of sexual harassment at work, it can be included in the social environment too. And if you have any physical violence at work, that can be accounted
Mhm.
in the social environment too.
And discretion refers to autonomy,
Yes,
professional
exactly.
autonomy. Yeah.
So how you can manage your work, or how can your how if whether or not you can control your work or your that kind of stuff, the autonomy that can be included in the skills and discretions index.
Now, one last question for me. I mean, you show that the premium or the advantage of being a graduate diminishes as presumably as more and more graduates enter
Yes.
the workforce as a proportion of the total workforce,
Mhm.
and that shows itself in many, but not all countries, not so much in the US in terms of, in pay, but it's also the case in job quality. And I expect, the process whereby graduates become more like society as a whole, in a sense, it's not surprising that the premium starts to diminish.
Mhm.
Um, but what's happening, do you think, in South Korea to the non-graduate? Quite a small category. Is their position deteriorating relative to what it was before?
So in South Korea, there are fewer number of non-graduates given
Mm.
the growing population of graduates. And it turns out that South Korean university provide wider benefits for graduates. That means non-graduates compared to graduates have some kind of disadvantage in the labor market. As you can see from here, graduates enjoy better job quality in 6 out of 7 job quality domains. And the only one exception is work intensity. And this trend can be found in different contexts, for instance, in the European countries. So yes, non-graduates in South Korea kind of have some kind of disadvantage in terms of job quality, given this situation. However, this job quality premium for graduates have decreased over time because more and more graduates are in the labor market. And that's what's happening in the labor market in South Korea for non-graduates. Yes.
Now, let's bring in our questions. First, Golo Henseki. Golo, can you come in, please?
Hi, Sangwoo. Good to
Hello.
see you.
Good to see you.
Lovely presentation. It's a very clear and on the point. I think my questions are more to bring out about trying to understand more what the mechanisms are. Why would we expect differences between graduates and non-graduates in these various job quality domains? Do you have any kind of answer there? And then I had a number of other some more questions around how this trends played out, right? This kind of job quality improvements could happen because see a churn in the nature of the kind of jobs an economy creates, so that new jobs are basically becoming more quality along several domains? Or is that something that happens within jobs, so that jobs themselves become better quality? And finally, the story on the over-education or oversupply of graduates, that's of course pertinent. And I wondered if you then had to look at maybe younger age groups where that we might then expect a sharper drop in job quality along those domains among the younger recent graduates when compared to the older graduates. Have you had a look at that at all?
So first of all, about the age group difference, we couldn't see, we didn't include the age, we couldn't see the difference between age groups in terms of the job quality premium, unfortunately. But I expect, as you expected, the job quality premium for different age groups may vary depending on because of the difference in the proportion of the graduates in the labor market by period. And for the mechanism for the graduate job quality premium, we couldn't see in detail why this happened for the graduates. As you can see from the slide, graduates enjoy better job quality in 6 different domains. The only, my assumption is that job quality is often defined by the occupation, according to many studies in Europe. And graduates tend to go to more white-collar job, which include more higher earnings or more prospect or better physical environment or even better working time quality. And that may play a role in this determining like job quality premium also.
So are you saying there graduates are basically choosing a bundle of features?
Yes, the occupation is one of the like significant factors determining the job quality, according to many research in European countries. So that's one possible mechanism, like driving this job quality premium in South Korea. I hope this answers, your question.
Good. That was a useful exchange. Now, Georgiana, can you come in, please?
Hi, thank
Hello.
you, Sangu, for your presentation. Very interesting work. It's great to have you speak in the seminar series. I have 2 questions. One is, were you able to do any data disaggregation for South Korea across fields of study? I'm thinking STEM, non-STEM, different subjects. Those debates are quite prominent in rates of return debates. And then also thinking about disaggregating results by any sort of not social stratification, but institutional stratification, reputational markers for Korean higher education institutions. It is a very stratified higher education system, so you potentially could learn a bit about the effects of stratification on job quality there. Thank you.
Thank you for your great question, Georgiana. And it's great to see you here. That's exactly the questions that I want to answer using the concept of job quality premium. The thing is that I briefly mentioned about the limitation we have or the challenges we are facing at the moment. So for now, it is hard to combine those job quality information with the existing socioeconomic characteristics or social biographical information. So again, in the KWCS, the Korean Working Conditions Survey, we do not have any information about the courses or the discipline or any other education information other than the level of the qualification. So we could not delve into this like disparities between like different disciplines or something like that in terms of job quality. And also the socioeconomic status information is not included in the KWCS, the Korean Working Conditions Survey data set. And that's why I mentioned about the challenges we are facing at the moment. So job quality information is kind of like isolated at the moment. So we cannot like explore who is having what kind of job quality in the labor market. So that's why I mentioned about the challenges we are facing at the moment at the end of the presentation. And yeah, sure, I definitely want to delve more into that kind of research question you mentioned, because I'm interested in higher education, I'm interested in the labor market outcomes. But at the moment, with the existing working condition survey data set, we have some kind of limitation to go deeper into that direction at the moment. So unfortunately, yeah, that's my best answer for your question at the moment. Yes.
Any hypotheses?
Hypothesis, yes. So it can be relevant to the occupation too. So maybe some, however, we all know that some economics or STEM major have some high earnings premium than any other like discipline subjects. I guess those occupations are more intense, therefore they tend to have more earnings premium. In that case, their job quality premium in terms of work intensity is much lower, I believe, I guess. And maybe their working time quality should be lower than many other like discipline subjects, those who majored in other discipline subjects. So it's like kind of like supplemental relationship, I believe. So if wage is higher, some other job quality domains may be worse than other people who majored in different discipline. Yeah, that's my hypothesis at the moment.
Thank
Yeah, I
you.
was going to go there a bit too. I mean, I've got two more questions actually, Samuel. The first one is about the point you made about job quality being really important and really important to a lot of people across the world, not just in South Korea. Your data show that, and especially for graduates, job quality issues do matter. And you know, and yet, what we emphasize in our practical lives is the tangibles, is the wages levels and so on. I'm always surprised by the fact that, say, in higher education, where I do my research, the colleagues who are, you know, faced with a choice about where they might work, where they might move to, or where they might take their first job, they often make the decision on the basis of earnings, you know, on the salary level. And if one of the two universities bidding for their services, you know, puts up the salary grade by one level, then they're likely to jump to that like Pavlovian dogs. You know, it's a trigger. And yet, of course, the job quality issues might be quite different to the salary differentials. And the problem with, you know, the argument that job quality matters more and so on is that we don't have easy ways of assessing it prior to the job experience itself. I mean, what could be done about that? How could social economic research open up this domain so people could make judgments about job quality before they made decisions about where they take themselves to work?
Yeah, that's a very important question, and that's very, very like important issue at the moment in socioeconomic, social science research. So many researchers have tried to attempt to like define the same metric for job quality domains, and many organizations have introduced some job quality metrics at the moment. And also one other problem is that there are so many different terms representing the job quality, such as decent work or quality of employment or fair work or good work. So we are now at the moment to establish the same term representing the job quality, and we are at the moment to establish the robust metric to measure job quality. So that's why I mentioned some challenges we are facing at the moment in terms of job quality research. So what we need to do is to make a robust and consistent metric to measure the job quality, because at the moment we have several different research showing the inconsistent result based on the job quality domains the researcher used or the data availability. So what we need to do is to first establish the robust metric first, and then we need to collect data set using that specific metric. So what I would say is that's kind of challenges or limitations we are facing at the moment, and we need to definitely improve that aspect.
Yeah, I thought your discussion at the end about how to develop job quality research was really helpful, and will stay on the record for all of us and something to think about. The second question I was going to ask was about, well, partly in relation to what you were saying in response to Georgiana, this question of how things might be different from sector to sector. You're collecting quite large-scale data sets in South Korea, so you do have the opportunity to disaggregate and to look at patterns in different sectors. And I mean, I take your point that maybe the earnings are higher in tech or economics or you know, some other parts of STEM for the top maths graduates, for example. But the work intensity might be greater, and that could apply whether you're on the stock exchange floor or you're doing mathematical calculations for insurance or anything. You know that these can be very competitive domains. I take that point, but we're, I think, working off common myths and legends here a bit, aren't we? We're just thinking about how it's probably panning out. We need to know about patterns in different sectors, and you could get substantially different job quality data out of government on one hand, manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, engineering applications and so on, communications and technology, finance. You know, there could be different things happening in these different places, and I think it would make quite a lot of difference to all of us in terms of the information we have and that the graduates have when they're thinking about their careers too, if we could break it down into different sectors.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Yeah, so in order to do that, conduct that kind of research, we need the metric of job quality and the data. Right. So data availability is one of the most biggest challenges we are facing at the moment. As I mentioned, job quality information is kind of isolated. So we have some kind of limitation to look further into the different patterns of job quality by different sectors.
And the last question I had on my list, and I welcome a further question from someone else before we close, is about the gender differential in South Korea. I mean, to a lesser extent, Japan too, you know, it just jumps out when you go to East Asia and you look at this, and it is different. And I guess this issue is on the agenda in many people's minds a lot, especially if they're women and professionals working in South Korea and in social research. But why don't these gaps start to close? You know, why aren't we progressing more in such an advanced, enlightened country? You know, South Korea is great in so many areas, but in this area, it struggles.
Yes, that's unfortunately true for South Korea. As I mentioned, South Korea has shown the largest gender pay gap in the labor market among Western countries. And in terms of the job quality gap, the overall job quality gap by gender have widened over time. I don't have like exact answer for that question behind the mechanism behind this, but I think one of the reasons, one of the possible reasons, explanation for this is the over gender like disparities in South Korea, like in society overall. Like females take more responsibility to do some household work, or so that may like they may have impact on females' work and females' occupation or females' preference on their type of work. So that those various factors may play a role in determining this job quality gap in South Korea. Yes.
I mean, you know, the historical explanation often boils down to the transformation of Korean culture under the influence of Neo-Confucianism and the equivalent of late medieval period in Europe, and how, you know, prior to that, women held property and had certain rights, and that their legal rights in the particular genderfied interpretation of Neo-Confucianism that took root in South Korea. They were subordinated fundamentally, and this also passed through to Japan as well. So Japanese, you know, Confucian influence again reflected this kind of gender subordination, and that's never really been reversed. which is, well, it's, it's a nice simple narrative, isn't it? But it may well be about these deep-rooted changes, which would indicate how difficult it is to change in another direction now. But it's, and we do reproduce in the modern period many older patterns, but it's but in some ways it's so obvious, and it's so striking that you could hardly not refer to it in polite conversation. And it's strange how these things get normalized and somehow survive, isn't it? But it's a terrible injustice, basically.
Yeah.
But as you say, the job quality gap not the same as the pay gap, and that's at least one good thing.
Oh yeah.
So what's your next big project? What are you going to? We've seen. I think you've explained how you're going to develop job quality as a domain. That's very helpful. And what's your next big data collection process?
So basically, I hope I can contribute to any data collection regarding the job quality information and along with the socioeconomic background and sociobiographic information, so that I can delve further into the job quality premium for different sectors or different education discipline or something like that. That's my plan in the short term. So that's where I'm going at the moment. Yes.
Great. And Georgiana suggested that you look at the data collection in the UK. We don't know enough about job quality. I'm sure that's true, Georgiana. Folks, we don't have any further questions. I might simply just announce next webinar at this point. We have Ben Waltman from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, again, really in this series. He's looking at ethnic earnings gap among university educated men. And that's next Thursday. That's in 2 days' time. Thursday, the 25th of January. So 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. UK time, other times around the world. I really want to pay tribute to you, Sang-Woo. I think it's one of the best webinars we've ever had in terms of quality of the presentation, clarity of the data. I really like the way your vocal fitted so well with the slides. They were really simple and clear slides. They were marvelous slides. It's a model presentation, and I think, it could stand there on our website for students to look at and to think about how to present very complex, big overview data in such a clear and convincing manner. So we very much welcome having you back on our webinar program, and your work's important. I think job quality is, you convinced me, it's a really central indicator for us to think about. We can be systematic about it. We can do comparisons with it. If we standardize it, if we make it work in a coherent way across the field of social research, that'll be the struggle. That's hard because quality can mean anything to people. So, but if you give it, if repeatedly you give it a particular meaning, you keep on institutionalizing and normalizing that, it will work, I think. So well done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone who took part in an excellent webinar. Some of the best webinars have got the smaller groups and they get used again and again on YouTube. And I think this one is in that category. So stay tuned, folks, for in 2 days' time for Ben and discussion of earnings. And until then, let me say thanks to Chris, who anchors our webinar program so well on the tech side, and bye to